Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Fran, and today I would like to talk about the nature of reality and imagination. And by bringing together quantum physics, cosmology, and spirituality, I would like to challenge your current understanding of reality and propose that we don't exist because of an intelligent design or external creator, nor do we exist as a consequence of a freak accident of nature. The truth of the matter is much simpler than what we think, if only we can bring ourselves to believe it. So let's start from quantum physics. In his book, A Universe from Nothing, Lawrence M. Krauss says, and I quote, "Maybe our universe is rather like a tear buried in a vast multiversal ocean of possibilities. That finally is the most accurate picture I can paint of reality as we understand it. It's based on the work of tens of thousands of minds over the past century." And then it goes on. "It's a picture whose creation emphasizes the best about what it is to be human, our ability to imagine the vast possibilities of existence and the adventurousness to bravely explore them, without passing the buck to a vague creative force or to a creator who is by definition forever unfathomable. A truly open mind means forcing our imagination to conform to the evidence of reality and not vice versa, whether or not we like the implications." Now, it's ironic how Krauss gets so close in his final statement about the nature of reality to the law of assumption. Let me reread that passage again so it can truly sink in. What it is to be human, our ability to imagine the vast possibilities of existence and the adventurousness to bravely explore them. To then do a 180-degree U-turn on us and conclude that a truly open mind means, and I quote again, forcing our imagination to conform to the evidence of reality and not vice versa, which is exactly the opposite of what Neville Goddard, the 1940s mystic, and the law of assumption maintain. Or is it? What Krauss refers to here is the many worlds interpretation, which was first proposed by Hugh Everett III. He refers to scientists who is talking to scientists who are so unwillingly to change their paradigm of reality that they refuse to see the scientific evidence before their very eyes. You see, the most common objection to the many world interpretation of quantum physics is that because these many parallel universes are inaccessible to us, then the theory is not falsifiable. Therefore, it's not strictly speaking scientific. In other words, there is no scientific way to disprove the theory. Therefore, you might as well argue for the existence of an almighty creator outside of the universe. But Krauss argues, even if we cannot directly observe these supposed universes, we can observe their effects on our universe. Therefore, we can actually infer their existence. After all, we cannot observe dark matter nor dark energy or black holes, yet we know with some degree of certainty that they do exist and that they form 99% of the known universe. We know that the weak and strong nuclear forces exist, that gravity exists, that electromagnetism exists, yet we cannot directly observe them. We only observe their effects on the reality that we do see. So what Krauss is arguing here is that the multiverse theory of quantum physics should be taken seriously, as quantum physical effects such as entanglement, superposition, and decoherence suggest. See, what they're saying is that subatomic particles communicate instantaneously across space and time. Contradictory quantum states can coexist at the quantum scale of things, but this superposition of states dissolves as more particles are involved in the interaction, as any form of interaction is considered observation at the quantum level. So when he says that imagination should conform to the evidence of reality, is appealing to his fellow scientists to not reject a theory on the basis of their previously held beliefs. Many scientists have become so dogmatic about their vision of reality that they're willing to ignore scientific evidence which may disprove their deeply held beliefs. And so, although Krauss maintains that imagination should conform to our observation of reality, he also supports the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics with its multiverse of infinite parallel realities, which, and I quote again, may be right under our noses and yet removed from us by microscopic distances in potential extra dimensions. Now, according to the many world interpretation, when you observe a reality, you select that version of reality. Your observation does not create or destroy the previous or alternative realities. You simply select a different dimension. In other words, when you decide what to observe, you become entangled, you become part of the same quantum state, and as such, you have selected the observed reality. Observer and observed become inexorably linked, and this renders other dimensions inaccessible to the observer. This is where the law of assumption and Krauss diverge in the definition of imagination. You see, from Krauss' point of view, imagination and observation are two completely distinct, different concepts, even contradictory. You see, for centuries prior to quantum physics, observation in science was synonym with rigorous and objective measurement. The scientist was considered an objective observer outside of the observed system, measuring quantities and giving a more or less objective view of reality, which was independent of their beliefs and expectations. Of course, even at the time of Isaac Newton's Principia, it was clear that observation did disturb the observed system. But at the time, it was believed that the effects were microscopic and that they didn't really significantly affect macroscopic systems. For instance, measuring the temperature of water in a bath would involve inserting a thermometer inside the water, hence affecting the overall temperature, but not significantly so. And on the macroscopic scale, such effects could be ignored. But with the advent of quantum physics, and even before with Einstein's general relativity, it had become clear that the observer was never objective and external. Einstein was the first to realize that nothing existed outside of observation. Even time and space were just a mere figment of imagination. He found that time became dilated at high speeds and in the presence of mass, while space contracted. Yet, every observer was right for their own frame of reference. Basically, even though different observers would measure a different time and space relating to the same event, they were all right. All of them, from their own point of view or frame of reference, were correct in their assumptions. Now, the implications of relativity are still hitting us today, as it took over a century for scientists to fathom what it really meant. If all observers are right from their own limited and subjective point of view, and no one version of reality exists outside of observation, as Bohr, who was a founding father of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics, put it, observation collapses the wave function of quantum possibilities into one measurable, tangible particle. And it makes no sense to talk about reality independent of observation. Then the inexorable conclusion is that reality only exists through observation. This is not to mean that observation creates reality, mind you, as it's easy to fall into that conceptual trap. You see, reality, to quote the Neville Goddard again, is already finished, or better yet, creation is already finished. You do not create a new universe through observation. You simply select it. You decide which reality to become aware of. So you see, the demarcation line between observation and imagination becomes impossibly blurred in quantum physics. If we are no longer objectively observing something outside of us, which pre-exists observation, If we are no longer outside of the universe that we are observing, but part of it, if our observation entangles us with the observed reality, and if our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined, then by directing our observation inwardly and imagining something as real, isn't it possible that we become entangled with that reality, hence collapsing it into the world of form, into one tangible particle in space-time? Let me try and reward this so you can grasp the immensity of this concept. In quantum physics, observation is any interaction amongst the elements in a quantum state. Interaction disrupts or decoheres superposition. In other words, before interaction or observation, all possibilities exist at once, and none of them really exist. Basically, anything goes. But once subatomic particles pass me this term, start being observed by other subatomic particles, superposition of contradictory quantum states becomes disrupted and dissolves, solidifying one state at the expense of all the others. Now, if reality does not exist in one or the other state before observation, it follows that the way in which we consciously or more frequently unconsciously decide to observe something will select the version of reality which we will experience in this dimension, on this plane of existence. In this sense, we can observe our imagined reality and accept it as real. When we observe our inner reality, we are imagining. Instead of observing reality and reacting to it as if it were real and pre-existed our imagination, we observe reality into existence. We select the dimension that we want to experience as real. There is still no need to introduce an external creator, and this would, I'm sure, please Krauss no end. Imagination is the creator. So, here's where Krauss and I diverge in our interpretation of quantum physics. Imagination, in my view, does come before reality, as no reality can exist outside of it. If, as Einstein has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, no one version of reality exists outside of the observer's subjective point of view or frame of reference, as he called it, then there is no way in which reality predates observation. It may be that one objective view of reality does not exist in a universe which doesn't take into account the existence of other dimensions or universes. Maybe there are many objective views of realities, each absolutely real in their own dimension. So I would like to turn Krauss's quote on its head and say that a truly open mind means forcing our reality to conform to the evidence of our imagination and not vice versa, whether or not we like the implications. And although this requires that we completely transform our understanding of the world as we know it, since we are the ones choosing the version of reality which we want to experience, how can we not like the implications of it? So while Krauss asks you that you open your mind and accept the evidence presented by quantum physics and its multiverse, even if it doesn't agree with your understanding of the world and with your past beliefs about reality, I ask you to go a step further yet and accept that the evidence presented by quantum physics is like everything else in your quantum universe, created by your imagination, or rather accessed through your imagination. I ask you to take quantum physics at face value and accept that imagination comes before reality, that it makes no sense whatsoever to talk about reality prior to observation, and that observation turned inwards is the same thing as imagination. And finally, that we select the version of reality that we experience through observation. I ask you to believe the evidence offered by quantum physics with all its weirdness. At the basic level, there is no separation, just the quantum soup of subatomic particles, no matter, but vibrating strings of energy at different frequencies. No solid reality, just energy. Electrons pop in and out of existence, and you can never predict their behavior completely. You can only ever get a probability of either their position or their momentum, say, but never both at the same time. The solid three-dimensional reality to which we are accustomed is but a stubborn illusion. Finally, I ask you to remember that matter, or what we call the visible universe, only accounts for 1% of the known universe. 1%. The remaining 99% is made up of dark energy and dark matter, of which we know next to nothing. What it is, how it works, how it affects the 1% to which we belong, we know nothing about it. It's pure potential. Yet, we remain anchored to a vision of the world based on the 1% that we are able to access. Finally, I believe that a truly open mind is a mind which accepts that observation comes before reality, that it makes no sense whatsoever to talk about reality outside of observation, that the known universe exists because we have observed it. These would also inevitably resolve the anthropic principle conundrum. Religious people argue that our existence on Earth is so unlikely that the probability of it happening by pure chance is next to nothing. So there must be an intelligent design behind it, an external almighty creator. On the other hand, if there is an infinity of universes, it's statistically speaking quite likely that we exist in one of them. Or put it differently yet, consciousness was not created by the universe, but vice versa. It was consciousness which observed itself into the universe, into this universe. Or better yet, it was not the universe which allowed for human consciousness to evolve. Rather, it was consciousness which imagined itself into this universe. And perhaps your head is spinning a little bit right now, but things are much simpler than they seem once you let go of your outdated view of the classical world. If imagination calls forward reality, then all the quantum witness disappears. In the end, I must agree with Krauss that reality does come before imagination, but reality is not one. It's an infinite number of dimensions, all existing at once in superposition of states, suspended in either or, dead or alive, here or there, undefined quantum states until observed. So, although creation is indeed finished, the future is not determined yet from our own point of view. In other words, reality already exists prior to observation, but it exists in an undetermined, superimposed quantum state. Imagination does not come before quantum reality, but it certainly comes before a 3D version of reality, our classical version of reality. And that's the problem, because different people have a different definition of reality. Now, imagination does not create reality, does not create the quantum reality. It simply selects the version of it that we are going to experience on this three-dimensional space-time reality. You see, from our human perspective, only that which we experience through our five senses feels real. Therefore, in that sense, imagination does create or predate reality, as it makes a certain version of reality available to our senses. But I ask you not to take this theory at face value. Do not embrace it or discount it just because you find it appealing or repulsive instinctively. Be truly open-minded. Be a scientist. Put the theory to the test. Change your expectations, your beliefs about reality, about yourself and others, and then watch your reality conform. So this is it for today. If you've come this far and found this content helpful and thought-provoking, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell option so that more people will be able to access it. I intend that this audio will encourage you to explore the power of your imagination for creating or accessing the version of life that you aspire to or dream of. In any case, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful, exciting, limitless, awakened life.